Hello everyone, welcome back to another Photoshop tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to make very cool 3D textured text without the use of expensive programs like C4D. If you're like me, you probably don't have $3,000 to pay for that program. And if you don't want to get it any other way, then this is how I'm going to do it. So using impact. And we'll just say, hey. And right now I'm just going to make this font white so we get the best shading when we make it 3D, because we're going to be adding overlays, so it won't matter. Now, what I'm going to do is first, if it's the size I want it, I'm just going to rasterize this layer. And I'm going to use this lasso tool to cut out each layer. Okay, so now I've got my 3 layers all on different layers. So I'm just going to rearrange them how they were. Now, I'm going to go to this first layer here, to the H. Right click the layer and hit over here, new 3D extrusion from selected layer. And I'm going to say no to switching to 3D workspace. Now what I'm going to do is just change the direction of this. And I don't want to make it too extreme, so I'll just leave it like that. Now I can right click this layer and just rasterize the 3D. Then go to this next layer and do the same thing. That looks good. Rasterize 3D. So now we've got our 3D text. Now what I'm going to do is erase the shadows. The only shadow we can see is over here, really. So I'm going to select a square brush. And I'm just going to click here, hold shift, and click here, and I'll make a straight line. Now we've erased the shadow. Now I can't see any coming off the E, so that's okay. And I'm going to erase the one coming off the Y now. There we go. Now as you can see, we're just going to add some extra shading and rearrange these letters a little bit. So I'm going to move the Y under the E a little bit more. And now I'm just going to select this entire Y. Get a soft brush on a low opacity. Now I can shade this in so there's like a shadow coming off of the E. Now I'm going to merge all these layers together because I like the spot that they're in. And I'm just going to select this all of this text and do some additional shading so it looks better. So again, with that brush, I'm just going to scale it up. I'm just going to go shift click on the bottom across all these layers. Now what I'm going to do is add some shading to these 3D extrusions. So I'm going to use my magic wand tool, hold shift, and select a few of these extrusions here, and take the same low opacity soft brush, but now I'm just going to select some white. There we go. Now we're going to start bringing in my textures. So I'm going to place my first texture, which is going to be the stark rock texture, which is going to be the main body of the text. Now what I'm going to do is select this layer and just hit overlay. And that will apply this texture most noticeably to the dark areas. Now if I duplicate it and hit multiply, then it applies it more to the light layers. So the lighter areas in the text will get the multiply effect, and the darker ones will show up more with the overlay effect. So now I'm just going to go to this bottom layer where my text is. I'm going to quick select the outside and just delete it on these two layers after I rasterize them if they're a smart object. Delete, rasterize, and delete. Okay, so now that we have our rock texture put in, as you can see, we can see some spots of the shadow that we missed. So I'm just going to go in and erase on these rock layers. Now, as you're going to see, it's not going to erase it completely because I only erased that on the multiply layer. Now I have to erase it on the overlay layer as well. There we go. And other than that, it looks pretty good. So you need to remember that the multiply goes to the light areas and the overlay applies it to the dark areas. Now, this looks pretty good, but I can't see the highlights as well as I would have liked to on the extrusion. So I'm going to quick select our extrusions again. And what I can do now is go to these rock layers, and again with that soft low opacity brush I can paint in some highlights again, and this adds a little bit of depth. Now I'm also going to do it on the overlay layer. But you don't want to make the opacity too high, or else it can look kind of fake, I guess you could call it. That looks pretty good. Now, what we'll do is we'll add another texture. So I'm gonna place a file. You can get this texture just by typing into Google Images magma texture. And I'm just going to scale this up as a smart object so the quality stays consistent. Then I can rasterize the layer. Then obviously I can duplicate this layer and again do multiplied on one and overlay on the other. And now I'll do a clipping mask by holding Alt and clicking in between these layers so it goes only where the rock layers are going. Now, let's say I want this magma to be green. I can just go on each of the layers and go Image Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. And I have to look at the little icon to see if it's green because again there's another red layer under it. So you can see that that's green. Now I'll change this one as well. Now I can see the green a little bit better. What I can do to make it more vibrant is turn up the saturation and play around with lightness. That looks pretty good. One last thing I can do with this is I'm gonna just merge everything together by clicking Merge Visible. And I'm gonna add some highlights around the text so we can see it better. So let's use our quick selection tool. Just select these letters. And let's get this brush a little bit smaller and lower the opacity even more. With our white, just go around to define where each of the letters is. Now if we deselect, we can see that the letters are defined a little bit more. So that's about it for this effect. I'm just gonna make a background now. So that's gonna be about it for this tutorial. As you can see, we are able, with a little bit of manipulation, to make a pretty good 3D textured text. Obviously, it's not as easy and straightforward and as powerful as it would to use a 3D modeling and texturing program, but it is a pretty good alternative if all you have to work with, like me, is Photoshop. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and I will see you in the next video.